everybody, welcome back to the Wooden Workshop Miss 6 Weeks podcast. I am your handicapped host, James Andrew Cox. I don't know why I said my middle name, but that's who I am. Um, it, this is where we fight depression with the power of music. Yes, so Casey is here again for the third time in 3 years, maybe? I don't
For
know.
you.
Almost five now.
Yes, almost five.
Time's
We
flying by.
interviewed him in
Yeah.
episode 50 and 111, so be sure to check out those.
What episode are we at now?
Free.
370
Wow.
something. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
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 So we've
Well,
been grinding, It's a great.
Yeah.
and kind of the reason Casey's here is because I was somehow ended up following you on Instagram. I don't know if you showed up in my, algorithm and I started following you. And then I sent to James and Blake. I was like, we need to get this guy on. He's amazing.
And I'm
And they
like,
were like, oh yeah,
already
we've had
done.
him on. We know who he is. Like, just
Yeah,
no
Blake and
big
I
deal.
especially, like Blake and I go way back. Like I
Yeah,
I remember when he was just I don't think we're super far apart in age, but I remember being
No.
in bands like back in like the early like 2010s, late 2000s and him coming to shows and stuff like that. So
yeah,
yeah,
because
like
um,
all of our ties are connected together really closely somehow. Because I was actually trying to think like how we got connected, and I think it was
yeah,
through Blake, right?
yeah, through
Yeah.
Blake, because Blake was, I think he's been with you since you're in embracing goodbye days, and he's like, I
Yeah.
got a great guest, and he contacted you, and that's when you met me,
Well,
and everything just took off from there. Yeah,
he
Yeah.
said the first time he saw you in concert was right after he broke up with the girlfriend that he took to the concert.
yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember. We
So,
talked about that on the podcast, I think.
yeah.
yeah,
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
yes. So but Casey and I like did one message back and forth about, I don't know, a month or so ago. Because you and I are kind of going through some similar stuff right now
Unfortunately.
where,
Yeah.
yeah, it's part of life,
Yeah.
but it kind of sucks to be part of the club of losing a parent. And I know you lost your dad fairly recently,
Yeah.
and I lost my mom just 6, 7 weeks ago. So it's
Yeah.
still pretty fresh for both of us.
yeah.
It'll be fresh for a long time too. Yeah, like mine was in February and it's still like it feels like yesterday and it probably will for a long time, and it's like you
Yeah.
said, yeah, like it really like it just it's such a horrible feeling, but also just like I feel so grateful to be in so much pain about it because it just goes to show how how much of a loving father I had and like the extent of what that loss is because there was so much love there. So it's like it's
Yeah.
the worst pain in the world. Wouldn't wish it on anybody, but also like how lucky am I to be able to be that sad over somebody. So it's definitely like a duality.
Yeah. Grief is love with no place to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's I lost my dad um holy moly, almost 26 years ago. He
Yeah.
he passed in February of 99. And I still, yesterday was his birthday. He would have been 80.
Oh.
And it's still hard some days. And that doesn't mean just because it's been 25 years, it doesn't mean you don't miss him still.
You don't get over
Um,
it, you just make room for it.
I love that. You don't get over it, you make room for it.
Yeah.
It's and some of the music that you've written recently is very different than the music from 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, I always want it to be that way. If I look back at music that I wrote, a decade ago, it was very true to who I was and what I was going through during that time. And at this point in time, depending on the song, maybe it's still relatable, maybe it's not. But yeah, at this point in my life, I've kind of shifted gears a little bit. Like I've always been a really big advocate of writing songs based around like mental health and just being really upfront about some of like the not so fun topics to talk about. And
Yeah.
it used to be
Yeah.
a whole lot more taboo than it is today. Luckily, like we're kind of at a point now where it's really easy to talk about mental health, at least for the most part, I find, which is nice. But it's still just as relevant and important as it ever was. But so I guess the new stuff that I'm working on now is still like centered around mental health, but then really is just taking like a subgenre of mental health and just talking about grief, especially. So I'm working on a grief album right now. It's definitely inspired by my dad. Um, and yeah, that's kind of the big thing I'm working on these days.
Well, I think it's a lot easier to talk about mental health now because so many people are going through mental health as opposed to the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, you know.
The
I,
So I
world's
I
think
got
think
that's
we
why.
were
crazy.
going through it then. We just didn't talk about
But yeah, I mean,
it.
Yeah,
we didn't know what it
Especially,
was. Yeah.
yeah.
I think especially men. I mean, I'm
Yes.
making generalizations here, but I think men
Oh
weren't
yeah.
allowed to be sad.
No, we're
No.
not allowed to cry. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's still like not gonna lie. I mean, things have gotten a lot better, but there's still a certain level of that now. It's not like things are just magically fixed. However, I do find just talking to like my guy friends and stuff too, it is a lot easier to talk about like struggles and like some of the bad parts. Like we don't have to just have this, tough skin on the way we used to. Sometimes we do, but we can at least balance it a little bit. So that's progress, right?
Right.
Still
Exactly.
Yeah.
slow
Yeah.
progress is still progress. So.
And and I think like for me, when I heard the words to what is it? I'm gonna get it wrong. View of a lifetime. Is that
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I was like, I'm gonna get that wrong, but I
Yeah.
didn't. Like that, those words just there was something about them that just hit me in the best and worst ways. If
Yeah.
that makes any sense. Like
Thank you, and also I'm really sorry.
it was just like I felt seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole that right there. Like
That's
that's
the
the
whole
highest
thing, right?
compliment an artist can receive. Thank you. I mean, that's the whole reason why I write songs is just to it helps me. Like a lot of my songs tend to be a little bit more on the heavier side of things, like when it comes to lyrical content. But for me, like music is just how I therapize too. So like, if things are good in my life, if I'm happy, I'm like out in that moment experiencing that. So like a lot of my songs don't tend to be super happy, but you know, when I'm going through it, that's when I do write about it because it's just kind of what helps me get through it. So if you like happy music, leave me alone because you won't like.
You leave me be, people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not your guy. But if
No.
if you want
Well,
some sad stuff,
Because
got you.
Casey, I do remember going over a song with you, and this was like years ago when I first interviewed you.
Yeah.
You had the music video for the song, and the opening scene was like a sunset, you know, and it was very beautiful. And the next scene, it was like a tank blowing up stuff.
Oh, is that?
Oh
I
no!
think the world is on fire. Is that the song?
Yes, yes,
I
yeah,
forgot about that song. Oh,
yeah, dude, that's such a great song too. Yeah, because but you're right. I mean, that's such a but that's a good song. But then again, it has a whole, you know,
yeah.
180 meaning to it. Yeah,
That was a fun one. That was my little COVID project. That song
yeah,
clocked
right.
in at like 6 minutes long. I think it was a pretty big one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
hey, I'm here for 6 minute long songs when they're good.
Yeah.
When they're
Uh,
good, you don't notice how long a song is, I think.
No, no.
yeah, that's a big thing. Like I love it. Like I love it when I can get lost in a song and I don't care if it's 8 minutes long and stuff. Like I know this is a completely different genre of music and stuff too, but I listen to a lot of like Sleep Token and stuff, which is
Super great.
I'm sure. Yeah, okay, so you know
Yeah,
Sleep Token.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
yes.
like all their songs are like 20 hours long, but it's
Which is
fine because
weird.
you don't even care.
That whole band is fantastic, but yeah, it's kind of mysterious too, because their names are 1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
and the lead singer is
that's
Vessel,
all. Yeah.
which is weird. But I get what they're trying to do, but
I,
it's
I'm
they're
yeah.
not, you know.
You
So,
Well, I
gotta
think
like fall into the lore of it. That's the whole
yeah,
shtick,
yeah,
you know?
it's
and
true.
and I think even like Metallica, when you look back at their stuff, the longer songs that weren't radio, like weren't made for radio originally, like they weren't in that three
Yeah.
minute, 3 minute, 30 seconds. Those were amazing,
Oh
like
yeah.
incredible like music. And then but even, you think of like Bohemian Rhapsody and Queen, and
Oh
their
yeah.
songs were also crazy long for
Yeah,
the
they were like
time.
mini movies. Yeah. But they told a good story. And that's one thing I've learned like songwriting. I spent a good few years before COVID, just before COVID, I was like really formulaic with my writing. And there's a time and a place. Like there's a time and a place for everything and stuff. And obviously even now, if I can make a song work in 3.5 minutes or less, like that's ideal. But I had a shift of gears where I just stopped worrying about that. Like I always forced my songs to be a certain time length because that's what I thought like the algorithm wanted and stuff like that. And one thing I noticed over time is like nobody cared. And like also like why should they? Because it made the songs dishonest, right? And like as I learned, like for example, you mentioned like I think the world is on fire. That song, 6 minutes long and released it 5 years ago now, almost 5 years, and like
Yeah, long
we're still
time.
having a conversation about it. It's a long song, but it's just like it once you drop all the expectations of like structuring your song a certain way, making it be a certain tempo, letting it fit a certain timestamp, and just let the song tell the story of however it wants to be told, and nothing else matters. Like that's when people like I just think it's more authentic that way. So that's something that I always do, no matter what, with my songwriting now. If it happens to be 3.5 minutes, cool. If not, cool. I'm gonna write it and release it anyway because I just think it makes it more authentic.
I okay, it might just be that I didn't find it because although I'm pretty good at finding things.
He is also
But
that kind of
this
stuff.
Hey,
one,
she knew my birthday.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
but
I'm telling you, I'm pretty
Just
good at,
Social
at the
Security
things.
number.
Um, I won't leak that, but
Okay.
this one that I found on Instagram that it's I'm not going to sing it because you don't want to hear that, but my
Totally.
days are a dagger, my walk is a stagger.
Yeah, so
I
that is
have to
that is a song. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead.
no, I just it that one I was like, oh my gosh, that's the
actually,
lyrics are incredible.
actually, can you read it for people that's listening, Amanda? Just read it one
Oh,
time.
oh sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So it is my days are a dagger, my walk is a stagger. I have to think of you just to breathe. I can't find my laughter or what should come after. I'm driftwood and you are the sea. You've got me
Man,
surrounded.
yeah,
I'm lost, but I'm grounded because you're still the best part of me. I can't stay awake and I can't get to sleep. The bills are all due and they ain't cheap. And it keeps going. But
yeah.
like, I think maybe that song, like, I can't stay awake and I can't get to sleep. Oh,
It's a
and
tough place.
also
Yeah.
That's the
it's
they
that,
say on insomnia, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Well,
but
it's
it's, I
just
think
one of
it's,
sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was saying, like, for me, it's that, like, my brain won't shut off, but I'm so tired and I'm
Grief
like,
does that to you. And that's the big thing, especially in the early stages of grief too. I mean, it happens throughout, but I remember I wrote that song maybe a month or two after dad died. So it was so fresh, kind of like the period you're talking about now. It was probably like 6, 7 weeks in. And it was one of those things where it's just like enough time had passed where I was having to get back into my routine. I wasn't able to take off work anymore. Like the world goes on, and that's a really tough thing to grasp because your world literally stops when that happens. So it's just like you're living in this state of like a zombie-like exhaustion. Um, but at the same time, your mind is like going through so many things, trying to process things, especially in this particular case because it was such an unexpected death, to where, it's like the world completely stops, but it also just jumps into hyperspeed simultaneously. And it affects your sleep schedule. Like you can't sleep, but you're so exhausted. It's a rough place.
it just, yeah, I saw those lyrics and I was like, man, like those just, again, like they speak to where I'm at right now.
Mhm.
And I'm getting all teary because
Okay, yeah.
it's real.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
it's one of those things you wouldn't wish it on anybody. It's the worst club in the world to be in, but at the same time, when you go through something like that with somebody that close to you, it does bring like a new sense of appreciation for things. Like I notice now, like I love so much harder than I ever have in my life because I realize how precious of a gift just life in general is. You're not promised tomorrow. And so if I have something to say, like I don't hold my tongue anymore. Like if I have something to say to somebody, I say it because, I would hate to not wake up tomorrow and then not get to,
Yeah.
spill whatever's happening.
yeah, I think it's interesting. My mom always, my dad had cancer when I was younger, and he, like I said, he passed away when I was 19. And my mom would always say, you know what the leading cause of death is? And, people would say all the different cancer, heart attack, whatever. And she was like, no, birth. 100% of people that are born die.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we all experience that death and the loss. And yet, I'm 45 and I'm like, oh, holy crap, I'm the adult now.
Yeah. It's
Like, I
the
know
way
that sounds
to be.
crazy, but like I had my mom, she was the adult, and then now I'm the adult.
Yeah.
That's weird. It's like a
It,
scary place to be.
It is, and it's one of those things like I'm trying to go ahead and you know, it's like we've been adults for some time now, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like oh, one of a friend of mine, Nick Bruzesi, he plays bass right now for Story So Far. He's from like Man Overboard. I used to record with him up in I used to be in a band called Bronze Age, and I did some recording
Yes.
with him.
Yes.
He
Great band, by the way.
oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He reached out to me when Dad died, and he said, man, the day that my dad died is the day that I really learned how to be a man. And
Mhm.
I resonated with that so hard because, you know, I was really lucky. I was one of the lucky few that had that like picture perfect father. You know, he was always there even after I like, you know, turned 18 and I was an adult. He never like stopped being dad, you know. Anytime I was having to learn something or figure it out, he'd be like, let's figure it out together, you know, and I always had him there too. And now that he's gone and stuff, it's just like now it's really, you know, it's your turn to step up now. So like I'm, you know, trying to be there for my mom and my sister and her kids and stuff like that too. So like when something breaks around the house, like I'm trying to fix it and, you know, for them and um you know, it's, you know, we all have our time to step up and it's a scary thing, you know, like you're the adult now, right? It's like you said,
Well,
it's just like we're the
yeah.
adults. Like what
Oh,
do
it
we,
was like,
even though we know how to be an adult, it
Right.
feels weird whenever you don't have a choice except but to be. And it's just like,
Right.
what do I do
right.
with my hands? You know, I don't know what to
Well,
do.
and I have teenagers. I mean, I have a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old. And
Yeah.
yet, like, my mom was always, if I needed help with things, like, she was the one that I could go to. And so, like, we're sitting here and I'm filling out life insurance paperwork. And I'm like, I wish I could call my mom and ask her, like, how to fill this out,
Yeah.
Mhm.
which seems ridiculous because I'm 45 years old. I should know how to do all of that, but no one prepares you
Unless,
for
yeah,
it.
unless you work in that line of work, you don't know what you're doing. Like I feel so lucky to still have my mom and you know figuring out like estate stuff with my dad and like going to the clerk of courts and that kind of a thing to figure all that stuff out. I didn't even know what an estate was, like other than like an estate sale when somebody was selling
Right.
it out. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
was
Right.
Yeah.
it. So like then having to, you know, do all that stuff and I couldn't imagine having to do that literally just on my own, just by myself. Like
And
it's
yeah,
insane. Yeah.
I have my sister, like,
Yeah.
so at least she and I, like, we get to do that together.
Yeah.
Um, but I kind of telling James I didn't quite get through the story, I think earlier, but like today I went to my attorney to pick up my trust binder because my mother had things in a trust and I was like, oh, that made life easier when, everything was done. So I should go take care of that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have like a full on will and advanced directives and a living trust and all of these things. And I wanted to call her and be like, you'd be so proud of me. I did all of these things, but I
Just like
can't.
saying the names of those things like feels so adultive, you know?
It does.
Like it feels like you
Yeah.
know what you're doing with your life, you know?
I don't. I don't.
We're
I
all faking
feel
it till we
like
make it. Yeah.
we are. And I think that these kind of conversations too, that like we all don't feel like adults really most of the time,
Yeah.
that we're not alone in this. Like there's a lot of us don't know what the heck is going on. We're just showing up and doing the best we can.
Yeah, you adapt and do your best. Like anytime somebody like tells me they know exactly what they're doing with their life as an adult and
Huh.
stuff, I'm
Like,
either
no,
like
you don't. Shut up.
You
Yeah.
don't? Are
you're
you not
lying
here?
or let's never be friends because I don't believe you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
That's just
yeah,
probably
adults
coming from jealousy. Yeah. I
or
wish I
maybe, but I think still we're always learning and growing and changing. And, that's part of being human, I
could.
think. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
So, yes, you're right, because it's just like music. You're always learning to create more stuff, different stuff. And I would ask you about something right now, Casey.
Sure.
Because we did talk about this on our past two podcasts with you. Um, Season and Snare Band.
Yeah.
Um, or, so I listened to this song I Never Wanted,
That was our first single, I believe we ever
that
released.
was so good. Okay. So
Thank
is that band still going on? And if so, when can we get another like song? Because I mean, you've had 2019 you came up with some with the song called Outside, but that's the I mean that's the last, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so Season and Snare is not currently active. So like we started, so at this point, like at this point in time in this podcast, it is 2024. We started in like Autumn and I met in 2013, late 2013.
Okay.
Started Season and Snare in like 2014, and we it broke up in 2016. It was one of those things like we also
Okay.
personally dated each other, and I think it was just one of those things where ultimately it's just like, hey, don't date your bandmates, kind of a thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Whoops.
whoops. Um,
Yeah.
no, but like we had like some of the best moments of my musical career came out of that project. Like I'm looking, it's out of frame now, but like we were lucky enough to win a Shorty Award. It's up
Yes.
on my mantle up there. Like it's still like that was just such a that was like that band and that particular moment was like the first time in my life where I felt like people took me seriously as a musician, where it felt like I like belonged. Like okay, I have a place here and I have things to say that are worthy of being said. So, yeah, long story short, we broke up in 2016. That
Yeah.
sounds right, feels right.
Because
Um,
on Apple Music it said you started releasing music with Susan there in 2015.
That sounds about right. Yeah, 2014, 15, something like that. Yeah, we started probably releasing music in 2015. We did I Never Wanted as a single.
Right.
We
Yeah.
released an EP called Seek. I believe that was also in 2015, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh,
Yeah, so that's coming up on a decade old.
yeah.
And
2015. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
yeah, we broke up in 2016. Um, and as far as Outside goes, talking about Outside, you said that was 2019 that release?
Yeah.
Wow, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago,
It's
but
a,
wow.
it's a, it's a 2019. Yeah, yeah.
So we actually wrote that song. I wrote that song. So Outside specifically, bringing it back to song like talking about grief and that kind of a thing. That song was about my grandmother that had recently passed. I wrote that song in 20 late 2015. She passed in 2015. I think I wrote it right after. So, and I think we recorded it in 2016. We
Mm.
never got to release it because we broke up as a band and stuff. And a couple years went by, and then we were able to kind of like mend the friendship again and just talked about, like I think we like did like this little collaborative video, like covering like a Billie Eilish song and that kind of a thing. And it was just nice to like get the friendship back again. And just kind of talked about like, hey, what if we went back and like released this song that we never got to release? So yeah, we released it in 2019, but it was written in 2016. We'll say
A while
2016.
back. Okay. Yeah, yeah. But
You, oh,
No
you
no
said like
future plans for Season Snare
no
though.
features. Okay.
To answer your question,
Yeah,
no. I mean,
right. Don't
it,
date your bandmates, right?
I
Yeah.
suppose, yeah, I suppose anything's like open ended, because at this
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
like there's no hard feelings at all. Like I've got,
Good.
I think Autumn is one of the most talented musicians and songwriters that I have ever
Very good
met.
voice.
So
Yeah.
like to be able to like play music with her is nothing but an honor. So nothing but good things to say. So like if she ever came to me and was like, "Hey, I've got a song that sounds like a Seasons and Snare song," I would do it. But I just don't think that's going to happen. But
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Well, Amanda and I wanted to know about your winning the Shorty Award from Al Roker.
yeah,
That's because Amanda
is,
was, yeah.
is he as awesome as he like I feel like he would be?
he has no business being that cool. Like
Okay, because
he
I
is the
feel like he would
coolest
be a
guy.
great
Right.
human, but then sometimes you meet your like
Yeah.
idols and you're like, oh, that was a disappointment.
Right.
Yeah, no, he was so nice. And again, we didn't get to spend a lot of time with him other than he was presenting,
Right.
right? So
Right.
like
Yeah.
we kind of just saw him like on stage in front of people, so it's not like I got to like have a conversation with him. But sometimes even in that atmosphere, like you can kind of catch people's vibes and energy and stuff. And he just had like such like a regular, normal like person of a vibe, which you don't normally get out of like TV personalities. I feel like. So.
Yeah.
No, it was really cool. But yeah, winning the Shorty Award was really cool. The whole thing started where I don't know if you remember the app Periscope. It was one of the first live streaming apps.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that was
Yes.
a million years ago.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Twitter wound up buying it out and that kind of a thing, so they partnered together. But we hopped on Periscope early on, and we were just like, thinking, okay, let's live stream to some strangers, some songs we were writing, just to kind of get an idea for how people react to them, so that when we go play them live, we have an idea of if people will like them or not. Um, and Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, which at the time Breaking Bad was like currently airing on TV, so it was like the hot thing, right? And like
Yeah.
Aaron Paul that plays Jesse on the show,
Right.
I
he
love him.
yeah, he stumbled into our stream and he shared us out to his 2 million plus followers, and that's how that whole thing got started. And then the ball kept rolling. You know, we wound up. I think that video somebody coined it. It was like one of the first like viral live videos, like not viral videos, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
videos that was live at the time that wound up going somewhat viral.
Yeah.
I don't know, but um yeah, that wound up escalating into, you know, other people finding us, and we wound up catching like our first sync deal from a publisher at the time. So we had a song of ours land. Sorry, my dog is playing with his stuffed animal behind me, so you
Oh,
might be hearing
you're
squeak.
good. Usually my
Um,
dog's the one that's
Yeah.
here. So
um,
Matt, is that your dog's name?
that is Matt. Yeah, I don't know if you Matt, come here, buddy. Come make your debut.
See,
Come here. Come
hey
here.
Matt.
Being camera
Oh,
shy.
he can't hear me because I'm in
Yeah,
my
I've got
hands,
headphones,
but
but he's here in spirit. He's wagging his tail right now. He's just out of
I
the
just
view, but
We
see.
saw.
I told you I knew the dog's
yeah.
name.
You know my
It's
cat's name?
no, darn, I didn't even know you had a cat.
I
Ugh.
do.
Hang
Yeah.
on, I will figure it
Oh,
out. Don't
I'm
you
sure
worry.
you will. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Give me a minute. I am the master.
I'm
at-
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always the joke. I will find it.
Yeah, it was such a wild experience though. Like it was, you know, winning that, and we were up against, you know, like people that were actually, you know, had notoriety and fame and that kind of thing. So to win that was just a really rewarding experience. I remember like after the award show, we got to go to this after party at a high rise and stuff in downtown Manhattan. And mind you, I'm the small town kid that even still I live back there now. I was living in Raleigh at the time, but now I live in a little 3 stoplight town. You know, like we have a McDonald's and a Subway. You know, like
That's all you need.
You're big time.
Right.
yeah, so it felt really cool to do that. And I remember being in the bathroom at one point, and I hear this voice like while I'm using the bathroom coming behind me, and he's like, "Yo, congrats on your win, dog!" And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And I turned around and it was DJ Khaled, and I was like, "Well, that's cool."
Nice.
You know, like, who also was like really cool. But just such a surreal experience. I don't know, like just the whole thing was just such a cool thing, and you know, haven't had that kind of success with any project post season snare, but like it's okay because I'm still like ultimately I just write music that I'm happy with, that feels honest to me, and I'm grateful to have those experiences too, and to have made those memories and stuff too. So
Well, I will give the next question completely credit to Amanda because I'm sorry, Amanda, for stepping on your toes. But
Oh no, I'm just trying to find the cat's
you-
name. I
she's
just
cat
focused on the
name.
cat.
the cat is knocking things off the counter, tangled up in cords, but I cannot find its
Oh wow,
dang
you are
name.
deep into so
Give her-
I know the
give her
video
like
you're
5 more
talking
minutes.
about.
Give her.
That's
no,
not
no,
even
no.
the same cat.
No, give
Oh,
her
it's not the
5.
same cat. Darn it!
I think
Give
you're
her-
in like
Oh.
20, you're in like 2013 right now. No.
Give
I
her another
know,
5 minutes,
I
dude.
can.
Give her
Oh,
another
I
5
can.
minutes.
I can find the information. It's
But,
almost. It's
Um,
the. I always joke the FBI is the Female Bureau Investigation, not.
right, which is true
Because
because anybody.
You need to be a co-host on Catfish if you haven't been
Yes.
asked already.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, gosh.
that
Yeah.
is your calling.
It really is. Like that it is the joke that I will find all of the information about people. Because I get, and also like yay ADHD and hyperfocus, which is
Sometimes you can
One-
use that as the weapon you need, you know?
exactly. What was my question? I don't even remember because there was a bunch
Okay.
that I talked.
Let's give her 5 more minutes, Casey, to find her cat and where.
I don't think she needs that
the
long.
name. No, okay. All right. So how does grief feel now? Does it feel differently when you're playing the drums as opposed to guitar? Because yes, you can beat the hell out of your drums even if you're feeling upset or mad, and then your guitar for those calmer moments. Does it feel like that
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, what was it cut out for the first part of that question. You said, so how does something feel?
How does grief feel different behind the drums as opposed to guitar?
Oh, that's a great question. So I still do occasionally play drums for bands live. Like right now, I'm playing drums for a rock band called Earther, based out of Raleigh. And so tying this back into grief as well, like I gave a eulogy at my dad's funeral, and one of the things that I mentioned is the whole reason that I'm a musician at all, specifically a drummer, is because my dad always wanted to learn how to play drums. He never got the opportunity. When I was 11, he bought me a drum set. I never asked for one, anything like that. So he bought it for me, and I was just like, thanks, I guess, and it sat there
Hey,
for a while.
right, yeah.
Um, then I had a buddy of mine come over a month or two later, and he wasn't like a drummer by any means, but he could do your basic, he could do that and taught me how to do that. And at that point, I was just like, oh, you can make like really cool sounds with this. Okay, that's cool. And I went with it, and then I started taking lessons and self-taught half my journey, and all this thing it grew into what it was. But I never would have gotten that opportunity if it weren't for my dad. So one of the things that I mentioned at his eulogy, or on his eulogy, is just I basically made a pact to him that every single note that I play, every hit that I play on drums is like specifically for him this point out. And yeah, especially in whenever I get to play rock shows where I get to play, heavy drums and really just like beat the hell out of them, like you said, um, I beat the hell out of them.
Right.
It
Yeah.
is it's therapy. It's like, a lot of people
Yes.
go to I've always wanted to go to a rage room. That looks like so much fun for me. It looks so like cathartic. But in a way, like I get that with drums because anytime I play a show, like I hit them as hard as I can simply because I can, and it feels therapeutic for me. And it's kind of the opposite of what I do. Like if you watch me play guitar and piano, like I'm a lot more delicate on that. And I tend to, my personal music, I write like indie folk stuff now, so it's definitely not that thrashy stuff. But yeah, it feels so good to sit behind a drum set and just take my grief out on it. And it depends on what it is on the day. Like sometimes grief can be like a really angry feeling,
Yeah.
and drums come in really clutch for that. But then like whenever grief is more of like the lonely feeling, the sad feeling, um, just the hopelessness, that's when something like piano and guitar really kind of fills that void a lot better. So I'm really lucky to be able to play multiple instruments where like I can kind of pick and choose one depending on what feeling of grief and what stage of grief I'm at on any given day.
Here's a quick question for you. So which instrument would be more, um, I don't know how to put this, the piano or the guitar? Which one is more available to you when you're feeling grief? Because I know the piano, yes, great. I love it. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean it's always easy because I've got my guitars hanging up
But
on the
yeah,
wall
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff too. Piano, I just think piano is the most gorgeous instrument on the
It
planet.
is. Yes,
I
sir.
I really do think it is. My thing is I don't know that I can give you a solid answer for that. It's just there's a time and a place.
Right, right.
When I write music, I typically reach for either a guitar or a piano, if not both, to write like the foundation of my songs. But then when I go to produce, sometimes it stays on those. Like I really just kind of find the sound that I'm looking for that feels like I don't know, I try to listen to what the song wants, if that makes any sense. It's like such a
Mhm.
hippie approach to things, but like when I write songs, I feel like I do the bare minimum that you have to do, which is like, okay, write the song, you kind of grab out of the ether whatever like lyrical content the ether is trying to give to you, and I'll write the foundation, but then once the foundation is there, I kind of just sit back and take off my songwriter hat and just put on like my music lover slash listener hat and just say like, what is the song trying to say? And then sometimes it needs guitar, sometimes it needs acoustic guitar, sometimes it needs electric guitar, sometimes it needs piano, sometimes it needs electric drums, sometimes it needs acoustic drums, sometimes we need synthesizers. Sometimes we need, like View of a Lifetime, for example. I hired out Philip Bowen to play violin, so that was like very organic violin on that one. Just whatever the song needs is all I care about. Like I kind of call myself just a noise lover in general.
I
Um,
like that.
yeah, so I'm not really drawn to necessarily one over the other. It just depends on what I'm in the mood for any given day, and I just try to find the sound that the song needs. Like sometimes there's been songs in the past, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I was trying to find like the right snare tone for this song, and it was kind of like a poppier, kind of electric, kind of a like synth pop kind of a vibe at the time too. So like none of the like my acoustic snares that I had in the room, like they just didn't fit no matter how I tried to tune them. I was trying to like find samples of snares. I was trying to create my own snares. And I randomly wound up just getting like a couple pieces of loose leaf paper and just took a drumstick and just smacked the paper. And I was like, that's the sound. And like that wound up being my snare drum for the song. So it's just like it doesn't even have to be a musical instrument for it to be the right sound. It's just you just
That-
kind of follow what works, you know?
That's like Charlie Puth and his light switch song.
That oh yeah. Yeah,
That
exactly. But yeah,
man.
the whole thing like the whole focal point of that song is the sound of a light switch. It's so good. I hate him and his perfect pitch.
I know.
Darn him. Right. Yeah.
But he's he is amazing. He
He's
really
amazing. He's so good. Like I'm just it's all jealousy. Like I wish I could hear like a and be like, "Oh, that's a C sharp," you know? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I understood what keys were. My daughter tried to explain them to me. She's a singer,
yeah.
she's in choir, and
Oh,
I'm
nice.
like, I don't understand. Like I get the do re mi fa, like I can do
Yeah.
that, but I
Yeah.
just
That's half
to
the battle.
me, to me, do is middle C, like always and forever.
Actually, I don't know if you'll.
Sometimes you have like a 1 in 12 chance of that being the case all the time. Yeah.
I don't know if
So
you've been on.
I have a solid like 8.5% chance of being right.
There you go. Exactly. There you go. See, that was good math. That was good math right off the top.
That's one of the weird
I'm
things
gonna
I
assume that it's right. I don't know, so
All right.
I'm gonna believe you.
yeah, good. You
It
should.
feels right. It feels right. Yeah,
Um
Here's
like
a.
I've got the theory side of things down because like I'm a huge music theory nerd. I'm a big music geek in general, but it's just like, and I've trained my ear like uh, over time. Like I can listen to a song, and even though like I don't have that perfect pitch, so I can't listen to a song and immediately be like, oh, that's in the key of F sharp. I can listen to a song and hear the interval differences between chords, and I can listen to a song and be like, oh, that's a a 5 4 3 1 progression. So go sit down on a piano or guitar or whatever, find the home bass, and then plug in the chords from there. So like I'm lucky enough to be able to do that, but yeah, I can't listen to like a knock on wood and then hear what note that is. But
yeah, I I am a huge fan though of music education. I think that we've cut a lot of funding in schools when it comes to music, I
yeah,
think, and all the arts. But I know from my experience as a mother that my kids, when they've been in orchestra and choir, like it's helped their math skills, it's helped their socialization with being with other kids. I know you teach music as well.
yeah.
So I'm curious, like and I know that like you're a drummer and piano, all the things, but what's your favorite to teach? Like if you could
Oh,
only do one.
Oh, if I could only do one, I could narrow it down between drums and piano. It would probably be piano. And the only reason is because like I love, with piano you get both rhythm and melody, in drums you just get rhythm. Also, like for example today the weather here was just absolute crap. And whenever bad weather comes through, I get migraines. So like having to power through a teaching day teaching drums with a migraine is like,
Oh, it sounds
oh, it is,
miserable.
it
I've
is,
had a headache for two past days, so I'm right there with you, man.
yeah, it is my personal hell. So like
Especially
at that
with
point,
drums,
like
'cause,
I'll definitely like go and reach for piano. But also, yeah, like I love being, like I can't teach key signatures and modes and like really fun music geeky stuff that I love doing on drums. So piano, I can do both.
Yeah.
And guitar, like, I fake my way through guitar, but I'm not like a true guitarist at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like I play enough to be able to write, you know. And I love guitar. Like sometimes I love just picking up a guitar and playing and stuff like that. But like I don't feel like a guitarist. You know what I
So
mean?
you're not like Santana, is what you're saying.
Yeah, not
Okay,
but yeah.
fair.
yeah.
No, because I've never played drums. I've never understood them. I know that sounds crazy. Like I watch, is it I'm gonna say the name of it wrong, the Drumeo
Drumming out, yeah,
videos
yeah,
where
Yes.
they, incredible, incredible like drummers hear a
yeah,
song that they've never heard before and they make, their own.
yeah.
And I will just watch it and be fascinated at how much drum can change the whole vibe of a
Your
song.
drums are the vibe of a song. If it's a song that has drums in it to begin with, your drums are what make the groove of the song. It's if you
And yet,
take a pop song and do like a four on the floor pattern and then switch up, take the same song and do kind of like this Latin like bossa nova kind of a thing over it, you're gonna have a completely different song, even if nothing else changes. It's wild. Like drums are just they're the backbone of a song.
so
Well, answer me this, if you will. I was looking at one of the drum mule things that I think the dude from Red Hot Chili Pepper, Chad.
Yeah, Chad Smith.
Yes, yeah, and
aka Will
and
Will
but
Ferrell
yeah,
look like.
but
Will
yeah,
Will
yes,
Ferrell, I mean, yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
but yeah, and okay, so they just give him the song without the drums, and he's like, oh wait, that's the fours. Okay, here we go. You
It
know,
was The Kill, right? He did 30
yes,
Seconds to
yes,
Mars.
yes.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, but it's amazing that drummers like you can automatically know, oh, it's the fours. It's like you the two here and what you know. It's just fascinates me, you know, because I'm not good at anything with instruments,
Oh,
you
I have no rhythm.
know.
Yeah. Well, you know what makes me so mad is like I play all these instruments and I consider myself a very musical person. I can't dance. Like
I can't
I
even.
literally I'm about like I'm one of like my bucket list items of things that I want to get into that I don't know how to do that I want to learn how to do and be good at. And like the top two on my list right now are like woodworking and literally dancing. Like I
Right,
want to take
right.
like salsa lessons. Like I think that would be so much fun because I get
Oh,
so mad
cool.
like put an instrument in my hand. I've got rhythm all day. Take it away, and it's so sad. It's so sad.
I
Well,
have a
One day.
question.
yeah.
So you've done the drums in the band and also solo you and a guitar and not much else.
Yeah.
How is it being like kind of like you said, drums are the core of a song, but we tend to ignore drummers, I think. Like you're in the back, we don't, we kind of forget, not forget, like you hear it, but you don't always see the person. And it's so what's it like the difference between being or how vulnerable, I guess, maybe is it versus drumming versus being up there all by yourself with just you and the guitar and your voice?
It is a lot more vulnerable just being me up by myself. It's just different. I don't really know how to say if I like it more or less one way because like one thing like I'm such an extrovert at heart too. So when I am on drums, like I'm making sure that people can hear me and see me. Like I do stick tricks. I'll literally like if I break a stick during a set, I'll throw a stick at somebody. Like I've accidentally hurt a couple people. Sorry, but it just makes for a more fun show. I feel like I just like drums are just it's what I was saying a second ago. Like it's such a cathartic thing to be able to play drums and take out like your day on drums and stuff like that. And it just kills me inside when I go see a show and see a drummer sitting behind the kit and they're just like acting like they're just bored out of their mind. And it's just like you're getting to like be on stage right now. And
Yeah.
specifically, I'm talking in the context of like rock music, right? So I'm not talking about like indie folk and especially like jazz band stuff like that because I feel like if you were like throwing sticks at people in a jazz band. Like that's read the room. But like if you're at a rock show, yeah, I want there to be energy. So that's kind of what I want to do, no matter what my role is in a band, whether I'm on drums or if I'm, in frontman territory. I just want to bring the right energy to a room. So like even if I'm singing, my own stuff, which is more like stripped down, sad, and about grief, there's still a certain atmosphere that you want to bring to that, which in that case is just vulnerability. So it's just take your walls down and just try to allow yourself to be the most authentic version of you can in front of an audience. And then with drums, I feel like it's a little bit more theatrical, which is still really fun, but it's just a different thing.
Well, there's
Uh,
one band that I know right off the bat that chose the actual drummer because he sits sideways in place so we could actually see him, and
yeah.
and that's Non-Point. And I wish that every
Yeah, I've heard of
would do
them.
that too. It just let us see the drummer,
Yeah, it did
back
get
in the
to the
back.
point. Yeah, I never did like the whole like side view of the drum set live thing. I wish I could
Okay,
have.
well, I mean, yeah,
The tail end of the time that I was with the Bronze Age, the last few months I was in the band, we were just operating as a three piece, and it did get to the point that when we'd play shows, if the stage was big enough to allow, instead of being in the back, we would just go side by side, so just all three up front, and the crowd really seemed to enjoy that.
yeah,
Because
good,
everybody is just right there, kind of almost within arm's reach.
right.
So yeah, I'm a big fan. Yeah, drummers, we get the bad end of the stick. They shove us in the back of the stage, and it is what it is. So you gotta make do with what you can.
Has there ever been a band? Well, I'm not sure, but there had to be a band where the drummer was in the front, all three in the back, guitar, singer, and that
I'm
was
sure
something
because like,
different.
well, what's crazy to me too is like take like a band like Under Oath, right? Especially since Aaron is back, and it kills me inside. If you watch videos of them live right now, I mean, they're always just great shows because it's Under
Yeah.
Oath.
Right.
Um, but like Aaron is like still in the back, and I'm like, he is like he's not just a drummer, he's like the co-vocalist of the band. And the fact that they don't put him in the front is just it's wild to me. Because like he is just as much the voice of the band as Spencer is to me. You know, like don't get me wrong, Disambiguation was a great album, but like it's not Under Oath unless you have both Spencer and Aaron right there. So I don't know. I could just be biased too because that was literally my idol growing up.
Right. Yeah.
As
Yeah.
someone who played drums that also sang, it was just like that was it for me. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, technically, we could put every drummer like Tommy Lee was on like that big roller coaster. You know, he's above the
Put him
crowd.
upside down the whole
Yeah, dude. Like, yeah, man, that would be tight. You know, but yeah, I think they're trying to bring that up to drummer more because I've never seen the roller coaster, Joey Jordison's spinning kit. You know,
yeah.
it's just different things that they're trying, and it's so good. You know.
My vertigo would never last.
Yeah, yeah.
I would try though.
You're right. Yeah.
I can't play any instrument. Well, I can play piano only because my parents made us learn
Yeah.
the piano and take lessons, and it was so we could read music. That was really important to
Yeah,
my parents
I
growing
think
up.
every parent should like literally force their children to do music. Like even if they don't stick with it and stuff like that, like it's such a good idea. Like you just learn so much. And what you were saying earlier, I wanted to circle back to this is yeah, like and I see it with my students. I can personally attest to this myself growing up in school. Yeah, like the more I learned about music and the more disciplined you are at music, naturally it you know, it's like creating a good habit. It takes 21 days to create a good habit. And as I became more disciplined in music, I became more disciplined in like in just school in general. Like my grades went up, and you know, I didn't care about school as much, like to be perfectly honest. But at the same time, like I found myself doing better in there, and just you know, I don't know, anything that forces that kind of discipline and stuff like that, you only get good results. You know.
Yeah, and I think my son who was in orchestra and played the violin and then cello, but now he's in football. Like that's his.
Yeah.
We live in Texas, so like he's high school football, like it's a thing. But it's the same sort of thing. Like it's his passion, and he is dedicated to it and spends time even in the off season,
Yeah, I've
really
got
working
students.
in it.
Yeah,
Oh,
students
go ahead.
right
You
now. Oh,
guys,
sorry. Yeah, I've got students right now that do both like piano and football. Like it's crazy. Like I've got somebody that's just like a linebacker at his school and stuff, and he plays like the most gorgeous piano you've ever heard. Like it's great. Like
Nice. Yeah.
think yes, we there's both and right. Like we can be rough and tumble football players and also have that delicacy that comes with beautiful soulful piano playing. And
this
I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of like kind of off topic from what we're talking about now, but bringing it back earlier. But like you just said, like it doesn't have to, it can be and like I saw this thing, like bringing it back to the grief conversation just a second. We're too happy in here, right? So we got to bring it back down. We're gonna get sad again,
Heck
okay?
yeah.
Right.
No, but like one of the things that like helped me most is realizing like using the word and within grief because that speaks to me so much. Because a lot of times, like especially going in the holidays right now are just so rough, like without your person and that kind
Mhm.
of thing. So a lot of times we think, you know, like people will try to look at the bright side or like at least you've got the rest of your family, at least you've got this stuff. And like they mean well and stuff like that too. But like it always seems to be like a but or an or that kind of a thing. And implementing and in a way where it's just like I'm grateful to have the life that I live, and I feel absolutely lost right now for my person. Like letting both of those things coexist at the same time has helped me tremendously because it's like I think the natural mode of function that we tend to go for is like we don't realize that we can live in both. Like especially if you're having one of those days where you're just like stuck dead in your grief, it doesn't feel like there's like an and to be had. And if anything, one of the things that helped me like therapize that is when I'm having one of those really hard days, is I can say like, yeah, I feel beat down and I don't even want to be like conscious right now. And I'm really happy that like my job is going well. I'm really happy that the rest of my family seems to be healthy right now. I'm glad that I get to be able to be healthy right now. And just like it it doesn't fix things, but it just helps things better. But yeah, sorry, I know that was like really off topic, but like the word and like letting the and be a big part of a sentence instead of just a conjunction or whatever, like that is just like done wonders for my brain.
Yeah, my best friend and I, it's always and also,
Yeah.
like this and also,
Mhm.
because it is that so often. It's not like I'm sad, I miss my mom, and also I am grateful for all the things that I learned from her.
Yeah, and then that way it doesn't take away from either of those things. Because then a lot of times, like you wind up like getting in this self spiral of feeling guilty for like being almost too sad because you've still got all these great things happening in your life. Or you get all these great things that are happening in your life, and then you feel guilty for experiencing a moment of happiness because it's just like, well, my dad doesn't get to experience happiness right now, and then I'll like make myself feel guilty for that. So it's like the word "and" balances both of those things out, you know?
And you know, your dad, you said he doesn't feel happiness. We
Maybe
could
he does.
argue about
Yeah, yeah,
all of
yeah,
that, whatever.
yeah.
But you're working on this album. It's your grief, but I think it's also for him as well. Or is that accurate? Or
Yeah, the cool thing about this still is the album is still pretty early in the work, so who knows what I'm working on that's going to stay on the album and what won't. But there are songs that I wrote earlier on, like the song that right now it's like my working title is Driftwood, the one that you were reading the lyrics from earlier.
oh yeah,
That one's definitely going to go because it's definitely like that's a song like about my dad for my dad, even though it's about my current experience through that loss. It's from like first person point of view, but it's definitely like about that. I have a few other songs that's literally just like a dedication for my dad almost. But then there's other songs that are just kind of about me and like the different stages of grief. Like sometimes um, like there's a few songs that's just about being really just beat down and lost in it. There are other songs that's just kind of about like feeling comfortably numb one day where it's just like, hey, this isn't probably like a healthy feeling, but it's a real feeling that you go through during that stage. So I feel like
yeah,
it's important to document it. And then even like within the grief album, like there's a couple songs that's about like the acceptance of it and almost experiencing like a happiness through it. So like there's going to be, I say that it's a grief album. When you first think about that, you think of just like a really, really sad boohoo album. And, it will have a couple songs like that on it, but it really, I feel like is going to cover all the different sides of like the nonlinear complexities that grief gives you. And I feel like there's a song for each part of that'll wind up being on there. So it's
and
not all going to be like just this depressing old thing to listen to, hopefully anyway.
Yeah, hopefully
That's what I
not.
try that's what I try to tell myself to sleep at night.
Yeah, yeah,
and and even if it is, and if it
and
is,
Yeah.
and
it's the right people are going to hear it, and it's going to speak to them the way that they need it.
Yeah, and that's really all I care about too, because like there's this interesting thing that happens for songwriters, and we'll write a song and we get to go through 1,000 different emotions with the song during the creation and the mixing and the mastering process and all that, where we go through loving the song and hating the song and second guessing the song and then being like, okay, the song's not half bad. And you go through all that, and that's before anybody else even know that it exists or even will exist. But what I do love is the period of time when the song is finished, you've got the master in hand, but the song's not out yet. Because at that point, it's still
It's
my song.
yours.
And it's mine, and I get to live in that and let it be a product of like my therapizing of what I was needing to go through that, and it really feels like mine until release day. And then from that point on, it's not mine anymore. And the goal there is to hopefully just make somebody else feel less isolated in their feelings. It's not to make them feel better because sometimes some songs aren't about feeling better. That's part of grief. Like, yeah, we want to feel better and we eventually make room for things. But there's sometimes where you don't feel good, nor do you want to. Um,
yeah.
you don't have the bandwidth to be able to. So I want to write songs that make people like realize that that's okay sometimes, and simple as that. I don't know,
That's
but yeah.
that's beautiful. I know for me, I listen to songs and they have a meaning for me. I don't give a crap if that is what the songwriter intended that meaning to be. But I don't know, like as a songwriter, is that okay with you if somebody creates their own meaning from your song? That
Absolutely. Yeah. And what's interesting about it too, like bringing it back to my song View of a Lifetime.
Yeah.
I actually wrote that song last year. That's a song that I wrote in 2023. And I could tell you what I wrote it about. I don't know if you want to hear it. I don't think that's really even important. Um, but the song initially, I mean, I guess the song definitely is a grief song, but it's a very different kind of grief than what it wound up turning into. And then like when dad died, parts of it, I can't even say it was really that song doesn't have anything to do with him. Even now, like there are certain emotions in that song, knowing what I wrote it about, that can kind of lie simultaneously with the grief I was feeling with him. But that was just like an accidental song where it was just like, all right, enough time went since dad passed. I wrote this song last year, but it feels right to get it out in the world right now. Um so I did, so it was one of those things where the song's only like what 2 months old right now, but like to me, like that's a song that I wrote in February of 23,
Yeah.
maybe something like that. So yeah, it felt right to go back and finish it. So yeah, to your point, I know for a fact that my meaning of that song is very different than whatever the song means to you, and I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Cool.
so a question I always love to ask is, I think it speaks so much to who people are when they grow up. What posters did you have on your walls growing up as a kid of bands or
Going back
artists?
years, you know. 'Cause
Yeah,
now, yeah.
yeah, I was talking about this the other day, and I feel so lame right now that I didn't have a lot of posters. It was more so just like the CDs that I would buy, and I would use CDs as like artwork for my room, as
Oh,
like
cool.
decoration pieces. And I remember like the first album I ever went and bought with my own earned money. I was probably like 12 years old at the time. Like I saved up my allowance and went and bought Reanimation by Linkin Park.
Ooh, great
Um,
album. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was great. And I found out about that. Like that was my introduction to Linkin Park. I heard that before I ever
Yeah.
heard like Hybrid Theory. So then to go back and hear like the original versions of what those songs were, because Reanimation was a remix album,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So it was just amazing. And then it was like that in between point two where like Meteora came out just a few months later. So I was getting like so much Linkin Park at one time right there.
Like, I love this.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it was bands like that. Like I was definitely like a little emo kid growing up. Mainly like rock bands and stuff. And half of it were like bands I was getting into and discovering on my own, and then half of it was just like gifts that I would get from family and stuff. But yeah, it was like Linkin Park on one end of things. I remember having like a Switchfoot album. What was that like? Beautiful Letdown. What
Yes.
that
Yeah.
was? It would
Yeah.
like Dare You to Move and Meant to Live and stuff.
There you
So
go.
like the
That
most
was such a good
iconic
album.
guitar
Yeah.
riff of all time. That it was so great. Um, yeah, yeah. Bands like those. Yellow Card was a big one. Like Ocean Avenue. Taking Back Sunday. I was just a little emo kid.
I feel so old that I don't recognize some of these bands,
Oh, you need to
Yeah,
look up Switch for
but
it.
it's not, I mean, I know Linkin Park. Yeah,
yeah.
but
Switch for
I mean, Milli Vanilli was my first album that I bought.
Oh, great
So,
album though.
Yes.
I mean, like it was, which is a funny album, like to be my first one. But then I also loved, the Black Crowes and,
Oh, they were great
Led
too.
you
Zeppelin
have,
and
did you have any Nelson albums, Amanda?
of course I did because yeah, I can't live without your love and affection.
Right.
I can't face another
Right.
night on my
Yeah,
own.
there you
Yeah.
go. Yes, yes,
I
yes.
I mean because I grew up in kind of like James,
Yeah.
like we grew up in that weird like late 80s, early
80s, 90s,
90s,
right. Yeah.
the hair bands, but like sort of the tail end of the hair bands.
It was like end of hair metal going into the beginning, like baby grunge. Yeah, like
Right, right in the
Yes,
bottom
because
part,
like
yeah.
I Offspring was one of my like
Right.
first like albums that I got when I was in that next sort of phase of my love of music. But at the same time, I also listened to Tori Amos and,
Tori Amos is
really,
one of the most like that record was so ahead of its time.
now I
Um,
want to listen to it all over again.
yeah, it's so
And you
good.
can, yeah.
And that's what like I was like I know I mentioned all these like emo bands and stuff from like the early 2000s and stuff at the same time like at that time like I remember randomly getting like a Nora Jones album and thinking like this is beautiful.
Yeah,
Like the one would like Come Away with Me.
yeah.
Her
Oh my
voice
God.
is
Yeah.
just
It's butter. It's so butter. So I loved stuff like that. And then around the same time like I fast forward a little bit, I was a little bit older at this point, but I was when I was like 17, I think. Was it 16, 17 was around the time that Bon Iver came around and it was
oh yeah.
game over for me the minute that Bon Iver came onto the scene because I have not been the same since. And he is still like, anytime I'm writing music, I kind of go and ask myself like the holy question of what would Bon Iver do?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that is he has remained like his sound has changed so much throughout the years, but yet every single album means so much to me in different ways, and it's just like it never stops being a source of inspiration for me as a writer
But
and stuff too. So
I feel like also it's changed, but you still know it's him.
yeah, and that's exactly what you want out of an artist. Like you could go and listen to Forever Ago, and then go listen to like 22 a Million. And at the end of the day, even though 22 a Million is like way more electronic and that kind of thing, he found a way, like, I don't know if you know the song like Creeks on there. It's like 715 Creeks or something. He had really weird track names for that album. But it's just a cappella with a vocoder. And he makes it feel well, anything on the album, he makes feel just as like organic and authentic as, Forever Ago, which was just him and a microphone and an acoustic guitar, like, and I think that is the true definition of what it means to be just an artist at that point. Like, roll with the times, use technology to your favor. Like I grew up around all these like old heads that just like anytime a new synthesizer would come around or like an electronic whatever uh simulator, whatever, and it was just like, and it's just like work with what you've got, and like, how do you take, technology and the times aren't going to stop progressing.
No.
So how do you use that and find a way to make it still authentic? And that is like something that I try to chase. And not always like sometimes, yeah, at the end of the day, I just want to sit down and just play like a three chord progression on guitar and
Mhm.
let that be the song.
Mhm.
But then there are other times where it's just like we've got all this cool tech around. What can I do with that tech and still make it cool and also still make it feel like it's me? How do I achieve the same feeling from that as I do when I just sit down with a guitar and play too? And
I'll tell you, a band that no matter which album you get, it always sounds the same, but they're always so great. It's AC/DC.
yeah,
These guys never
yeah.
change their sound,
You will
but it's
always
so great.
know when you will
It's so
always know it's them.
they're all like 4'2", little people just rocking down and I love it, So
Yep, absolutely.
yeah, it's great.
Sure.
Um,
AC/DC.
so I don't know if James wants to ask the question, but one of the questions we also always ask is what is your Mount Rushmore, your top four
Top four
musicians?
bands of all time, right now.
Oh God.
Yeah.
It's so
Now keep
we
in
we said
mind,
bands? Are we talking
band,
strictly bands?
Bands or artists,
band the artists.
whatever.
Oh, that make
Now,
oh
now
Four.
keep in mind,
Make it harder
and,
for you, bands or artists.
but keep in mind, Casey,
oh I know
as
that
soon as
that does
we
make it hard.
end, as soon as we get off with you, you're like, oh man, I should have said this one, this one, this one, because it's
Yeah,
always changing. So I mean, you take your time with this.
I'll tell you what I do because like a question like this, I can only give you my current timestamp. It's
Yeah,
like almost like a yearbook picture of where I'm at right now, right?
right,
Because next year it could be totally different.
exactly. 2 minutes
Right,
from now might be different.
right now, the bands that are speaking to me the most slash artists, at the top of the list, I'd probably put Noah Khan. Um, I love the new Linkin Park. Like bringing it back to like, we were
Yeah,
talking about Linkin
right,
Park
yeah.
being the first CD I ever bought. And then like, to be honest, like I fell off the bandwagon after like Meteora. Like there'd be a few good songs here and there and stuff like that. But, and then like Chester dying, that was like Chester and then Robin Williams were like two of like the celebrity deaths because I usually don't care about celebrities, but like those were two people that like, it felt like I lost somebody close to
Yeah.
me. And then realizing how much of like an inspiration Linkin Park was to me, even though I don't write music that sounds remotely similar to them. But then like them coming back with the new stuff, and I think the new stuff is just so good.
I'm going to
So
talk to you about that in just a minute after we,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, sure.
because, yeah,
So yeah, we'll say Noah Khan, Linkin Park with the surprising comeback. I didn't
yeah,
think I'd be
right.
saying, I didn't think I'd be saying Linkin Park in 2024.
I know, right? That's
Um,
wild, isn't it?
Matt Mason. Um, oh, see, I don't know. There's so many good ones. It'd be a toss up probably between. I've always been a huge Dermot Kennedy fan, but I feel like I've mentioned him in almost like any podcast I've ever done. I'm going to switch it up and say Maggie Rogers right now. I think Maggie Rogers is really, really, really good. I got to see her live last year. Anytime she has any song whatsoever come on, I just find myself like never skipping it. It's just she's such a good writer, so talented. So yeah, let's go with those four for now.
Cool, cool.
Fantastic.
Going back to the Linkin Park, though, I want to chat with you a minute or two because I find this interesting. Emily from Dead Sir is a great singer. I mean, all of her songs are great.
Yeah.
I don't think that the fans are really know what they're saying. Because the album's great. And so I want to know, like, what are your thoughts on that album, and do you see this going to be like a permanent, thing
Oh,
going?
I think it's permanent. Like I don't think she's
Yeah.
going anywhere. Nor do I think she should. I think she's a
Oh,
perfect fit for them. Same with Colin, their new drummer. Like I think both of them just fit so well. Um, my thoughts on the album is just like it had to have been so hard to write an album that feels like Linkin Park, given what they were up against. And I think that's my favorite thing is it feels like Linkin Park. I would argue it's their best album since Meteora. Um, they have a really interesting fan base, and I want to keep it as positive as I can. But
yeah.
it's kind of like what you said. I don't think their fan base even knows what
No,
they.
they don't know what they're no. Yeah.
And but the thing is, I think it comes from a place. Half of the fan base comes from a place of just wanting to protect Chester and his memory. So even though it's coming off as like kind of hateful and really just internet troll and annoying and stuff, I think it comes out of a place of just how special that band was to them, which is every artist's dream. Then the other half, if you look at it, do you remember? I mean, think about back when Chester was alive and they released One More Light, that album.
Yeah.
It was a pop album.
Right.
Um, and their fans hated them. Like you could see videos of like Chester getting heckled on stage when he was singing "Heavy," that song. It was off of that record. Um, so it's just like sometimes like a lot of fans never got past anything they did after Hybrid Theory and Meteora. And if
Right.
you really
Yeah.
look at the long and yeah, I would argue that those are the two like Hybrid Theory,
The biggest.
Meteora, and then now From Zero, like those are the three best Linkin Park albums in my opinion. But if you look at everything they did throughout the years, they were so versatile because you had like Hybrid Theory, which was very like new metal rap rock, you
Yeah.
know? You had Meteora that was along the same lines, but it focused more on the singing. It focused more on highlighting Chester. Mike wasn't quite, he was still very present on there, but he wasn't as present as if like listen to Hybrid Theory and that kind of a thing. And then like Minutes to Midnight and Hunting Party and all those albums too, like they were very experimental. Like sometimes they had like straight up like anthems. Castle of Glass, wasn't that the song? Like that was such a left field thing for what they were doing at the time. And they were just a band that proved that they could write any subgenre of rock and make it work. And, I think the big thing was just whether or not their fans resonated with it. But I think the only reason there's a lot of like weirdness in the fan base, it's strictly from the old head, like the metalhead fans of Linkin Park. Because that's one thing I realize, 'cause especially now, like that I'm kind of out of the rock scene. I just do my indie folk thing and mind my
That's
own
fine.
business.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I grew up in like the hardcore scene, you know what I mean? And I have never met a more just insufferable group of people as your fan base as metalheads. And I'm
Oh
sorry.
God.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna ruffle some
I'm agreeing
feathers
with you.
there.
I'm agreeing with you. Yeah. Because
They're so judgmental. They want you to do things by their standards, and I don't think they realize what art is, When you're the artist, it's your job to take people on a journey. Now, it's their choice whether to join you on that journey or not, but they have no say in what you do and why you do it. And that is one thing that like a lot of different genres of music, are going to have those issues, but most genres of music like their fan base somewhat understands that. Um
I
Heavy rock just they never got it. and it got really annoying to me. I'll be that's a big reason that I kind of phased out of it, of wanting to play it. It was just the mindset behind a lot of it. And I'm not talking for everybody. Like, don't get me wrong. Like it was, they're some of the best people I've ever met in my life come from that genre and the fans of that genre.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just they put you on some kind of like an expectation
Yeah.
pedestal to
I'm
want to
going to
do
completely
it.
agree with you because people didn't like Rip Owens as a frontman from Judas Priest, but they loved Jeff Goot from Stone Temple Pilots.
And talking about STP, think about like the fact that like everybody now wants to talk about how much they love and miss Chester, but remember when Chester was singing for STP and they gave him so much
Nobody,
hate for it.
yes, yeah.
So it's just like when you can't make anybody happy, who cares about him anyway? Do what makes you happy,
Do
do
what
what you want to
yeah.
do, and that is art. That's a
But,
quick way to condense everything I just went on a pedal on a high horse about. Sorry.
but one more thing before Amanda has a comment. Did you hear that Soundgarden is coming back with a new title? They're not Soundgarden. They are the same members, but they're coming back as a different like entity.
I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what the rumors are, but
Wow. Do they
yeah.
know who the vocalist is going to be? Or had they? Well, of
I
course
don't
they know.
I don't
Have
know,
they announced
but
anything?
going back to Linkin Park, a lot of people said that they should have created a different name under, but I'm like, no, you know,
It's
that's
Mike. So I was watching an interview with Mike Shinoda, and he said it best. It's like, you know, Lincoln Park is so synonymous with like some of the biggest parts of his life. Like he was
yeah,
thinking about like some of the biggest parts of his life, whether it be like his wife, his kids, his hobbies, and like Lincoln Park is just like right up there with the top. So it's just like, and at the end of the day, like Lincoln Park is his band. Like Chester was not the founding member of the band. Like Mike Shinoda is actually Lincoln Park, and it was all of them. I'm not
he is,
taking that.
oh,
I'm not taking that
no,
away
no,
from any of
yeah,
the other members by any means.
yeah,
But that's literally like his baby from the start, you
okay,
know?
yeah,
So I think, especially considering the fact that when you listen to that album, at least to me, it feels like a Linkin Park album.
mm,
Yeah, let him, if it's his band, he can do what he wants with it, you
yeah.
know? People don't have to like it. They just can not listen, you know? Yeah, I
I
love it.
think
I think it's so great.
I think when you talk about when you do what you love, you make art, and I think the people, the right people, that your people find you, whatever it is that you do, when you show up with passion and love for it, your people show up.
It's the same thing as just like remember like when we first entered our 30s and it's just like your friend
Oh,
circle diminishes so greatly, but you actually learn who your really good friends are because those are like your thick and thins, the people that care about you doing well and are there for the good parts of you and the bad parts of you, and then likewise you for them in return. And I kind of think about true artists working in the same way, like your true fan base, rather. Your true fans are people that stick with you throughout your changing of sounds and lyrical content, that kind of thing. I was actually listening to an interview with Adam from Taking Back Sunday a while back, and it was just like they got really popular when they were 18 years old, writing about the girl in school that broke their heart that they were fighting about, and that kind of a thing. And he's like, man, now I'm in my 40s. I've got a happy wife and kids, and like yeah, our music, what we write about now changes because it would just be weird if we tried to write about that same thing just because our fans want that. But then that's when it comes to a point where it's just like maybe the fans really don't know what they want because
exactly, yeah,
the minute you do write about that in that stage of your
right.
life, that's going to feel inauthentic
And
and
of
also
course,
it's going
yeah,
to feel straight up weird.
right.
You know?
And fans will recognize you're being fake or you're being true to yourself for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So sometimes I don't know. Sometimes it's just like
can't win,
can't win for losing, man. It's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
so it's just about at the end of the day, you just focus on the art that feels authentic to you and makes you happy, and that can be enough, and it has to be enough, you
There you
know?
go.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just love the art that you love and make the art that you love, and there.
There we
Yeah.
That's
go. Yeah.
It's
that's what it is.
yeah. It doesn't have to be more complex than that. It just feels like it should be.
We try
Amanda,
to make everything complex, don't we?
Yeah,
uh,
we do that, don't we?
Are we about to ask like the complex question of the
Yes,
night?
I will let you do
Oh
it.
God.
Yeah. Okay. Okay,
I
Casey. This is gonna be the hardest question we've asked tonight for you. Okay.
so so we've talked a lot about how music speaks to each of us and all of that. What is one either song or album that just like you go back to all the time because it just gives you feels that you can't describe the feels. It just makes you feel and it's
Yeah.
home almost.
I mean, obviously, I have a few, and I can name one. I could name songs like throughout my life that I've heard that do that to me. I think one of the most important songs to me that's been steadily important to me since it was released. It's actually a decently new song. I think it only came out about 2 years ago. Um, but it just the first time I heard it, I was like, this is forever going to be like a staple in my life. Like there are those songs that like create
Mhm.
that like AB in your life. Like there was a before me and there was an after me when it comes to the point in time that you heard the song for the first time. Um, Irish artist named Dermot Kennedy. He released a song called Innocence and Sadness. And I think that is just one, it immediately just hit one of my all-time favorite songs. And it means a lot to me because I can relate a lot. But essentially, the song kind of bounces back and forth between him. What I gather, anyway, is kind of what we were talking about interpreting songs. Who knows what the song means to him? What I get out of it is him talking to his younger self, like specifically like the child version of himself uh, as he's an adult now, being who he needs to be for that little boy, and to make him feel like he's living a life worth living, um, not only for the sake of his younger self, but also for the sake of being able to love and take care of somebody else, like a partner. And the song kind of battles between both of those things at the same time. Um, and one of the biggest things he's chasing after, he has this phrase in there that he calls steady rhythm joy. And I just think that is it's the perfect statement because that's what you're chasing after in life is um just finding like a steady rhythm of being able to roll with the punches, good and bad, and be able to create this steady rhythm of being able to keep going no matter what. And that's just like, especially like you and I going through the grief that we're going through right now as we're trying to find that. So that song is just everything to me. It's one of those songs that I wish I could have written it myself. Um Dermot Kennedy kind of holds some of my favorite songs that in this category that you're asking too. Like just a little that's my song, but an honorable mention, my favorite lyric of all time, comes from another song of his called "For Island Fires and Family." And there is a song, or there's a lyric in there that just says, "When I'm face to face with death, I'll grab his throat and ask him how does it hurt." And that is just everything to me because I've had like my own run-ins, like I've had like collapsed lungs and surgeries and you know um definitely the things that are kind of like rough encounters and things like that, and then dealing with deaths of loved ones and stuff like that too. So it's almost just like to be able to personify death as just this asshole of a guy that you can then when he tries to come for you grab him up by the throat. I don't know, that is my favorite line I've ever heard. I don't know.
An
Big Dermot
incredible line.
Kennedy fan.
I've
Right.
never heard of him and now he's now on my
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
So
Start with his older stuff. But and then yeah, start with his older stuff. Innocence and Sadness is on his newest record called Sonder, which that's also one of my favorite words, by the way. We can talk about that if you want to.
Sonder.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I love Sonder.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would not start with that album as a whole. It's a little processed, and he'll even tell you that. But start with like
We're
Without Fear,
talking what without yeah without fear. Okay. Yeah.
Without Fear, and then any of the stuff before that, like After Rain, is also another honorable mention.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, one of my all-time favorites. He's just amazing.
I'm excited to
Yeah. I
listen
got a new
to
artist.
him.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
um thank you for being here. I needed this
I think
like
we all did.
healing moment
This
We
feel
are.
for
better.
Yeah. Yeah. We
I
all.
know it's been quite a year, seems like for both of us
It's been yeah, it's pretty
and
relentless too. Yeah.
and knowing you're not alone, sure. I don't
Helps.
want to say it makes it better or easier, but it feels a little less heavy because other people are carrying that weight with you.
It doesn't fix things, but it helps.
And it
Yeah.
it it gets easier and harder, and then it's easier, and then it's, you
Harder
know,
again. Yeah.
harder again. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you're standing in the grocery store and you look at something and you're like, you lose it because that's the thing that they would have loved.
Yeah. It's always the most random little thing, like,
And always use the word and.
yeah.
Don't use,
Yeah.
but don't use the word or but.
Yeah. Ors and buts are out.
Yeah.
It's an and. It's an
It's
and.
and kind of next year, right? Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I always would tell people that I love you. There's no, I love you, but I love you if
Um,
I love you. And that is the end of the sentence, except for maybe I love you and you're awesome
well,
Yeah.
or something like that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be because I mean the minute that you start calling it love with contingencies, that sparks up a whole, philosophical conversation that we can rabbit hole down to, but
we could,
Yeah.
yeah, we
it's
we don't
dangerous.
have time
No,
for all
we
of
don't.
those
Yeah. Next time we
conversations.
go on. Yeah.
Because there's still like I could probably talk to you, ask questions for another
Yeah.
8 hours or longer. I so much came up. I've really enjoyed
But
This has
talking
been
to
great.
you.
This has been so helpful for me. I didn't realize how much I needed this. So thank you for having me.
sure,
Thank
yeah.
you.
But you will be back because we love you to death here. And
Yeah.
Blake,
And you will be back.
Blake
Can't wait.
truly, Blake truly misses you. So
He was
he's sorry, but he's
sick.
practicing and he's at church right now drumming. So I mean,
Yeah. I saw his hair got long too.
I know, right?
It
Grew his hair
did.
out,
And
yeah.
he's enjoying like the emo, like
Right, yeah.
reliving
The
that
emo
that phase
right?
That's
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
of
Like,
his
I'm
life.
currently like growing my hair out. It's the longest it's ever been too. And it was just kind of that thing where it's just like, I've always said I was going to, and then I would let it get to like the first awkward phase, and then I'd cut it off, and then I'd regret it and stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm lucky enough to not be balding or graying right now. I'm going to take advantage of that while
Dude,
the iron's hot.
I really want white hair. I'm so jealous of my dad because he got like
Gonna
great
get
white
salt
hair.
and pepper going on, man.
I
Yeah.
know, right? Yeah, well. See, my dad is a retired colonel, and he started going gray in his like 20s or something. I guess
Yeah.
from the military got him.
See, if you're wanting that, my professional recommendation would just be start smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a
No.
day, a lot of whiskey. I think that'll get you there.
Or have children.
Or have to all the above. No,
Well,
not all.
Would you like a couple teenagers? They will help with the gray.
well, the
But
thing
I
is,
am-
well, you're right. You know why? My sister's going great, and she has 2 kids. So maybe y'all hit the nail on
I
something.
feel like
My
Yeah.
sister has 4, and I've started noticing the grays pop up on her over the past like couple years, and she just loves it when I call her out on that too.
Oh,
I'm
really?
sure she does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
My daughter refers to my grays as my sparkle.
Yeah, there you go. It's just sophisticated fairy hair.
Yes.
Oh, I like that. Or
Yeah,
it's,
here. I like it. Yeah.
we all get it. It's who we are.
Well, yeah,
And
and well,
it
that's another
shows
thing
our
too.
life.
I used to be so scared, and don't get me wrong, there's a part of me that still, it's just like the older you get, the more you feel like your youth fleeting. And that's a scary thing. Like I hope that I always carry like a certain sense of youth with me, like my grandpa did. Like my grandpa, like he'd be 85 years old, and he'd still like he'd hear a fart, and that would be the funniest thing that he'd ever heard. Like, so like I hope that I still carry a sense of youth for myself, like however old that I get lucky enough to be able to be. But like also the older I get now is just like I'm realizing really just like how lucky you are to get to be old. So like yeah, like I'm not in a rush to start graying, but like when I do, it's just like hey, like a lot of people don't make it here. So wow, I am one of the lucky ones. That's cool. So it's one of those and things. It's just like I'm
And
scared.
yeah.
I'm scared to use my youth to lose my youth, and I'm going to feel really grateful for getting to be old. Should I get to live to be old?
Maybe I'll just diet. Right?
You
White.
could.
Just put
Yeah.
some fake salt in there.
Yes. Yes.
Some of that like Halloween spray from
Yeah. I
so
can do that. I can do that. That's faster.
There you
Yeah. So.
Do it.
So
We
Miss
keep
Vacation, we
documenting.
love you here, and we honestly do want you to come back anytime you want to again.
Happy to come back anytime.
Maybe we can, talk about grief again or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
cats. I still don't know your cat's name.
So do you want to know?
I need to know now. Like
So
it's
my cat's name is Liz.
Liz.
It is
Matt and
not
Liz.
short for Elizabeth. It is short for lizard. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
the fun
I
part there.
love that.
So,
Nice.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
such a fun. I love names for animals that have like a weird
Yeah, both my
meaning or
animals have like
backstories.
human names. Like Matt is just Matt, like he's Matthew, but then Liz, like it's half human, but then until you use her government name, and then
Yeah.
it's lizard. So
So next time you come back here, see, Amanda will tell you what kind of cat it is.
oh, I'm sure she'll
Yeah.
know more about
I
Liz than I know about.
just give
Exactly.
me. I gave up on looking because I was more interested in hearing what you had to
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
Give me
yeah.
a little more time, I would have gotten there. But
Another
yeah,
minute.
thank you so much
Yes,
for being
thank
here.
you.
I needed this
Yeah,
too.
I did too. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on and listening to my songs and
Yeah.
yeah, View of a Lifetime is my most recent one. I'll have some sad songs out starting next year. So
I
Oh, oh,
I can't
next
wait
year
to hear Driftwood, the
and the
final.
Grief album,
melody. Yeah.
will come out next year, early next year, or like middle.
So kind
When it
of
comes out.
it comes out when it comes out. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
But I mean I'm
Sometime in
happy
the
talking
done. Yeah.
I'm happy talking about my plan with it. So
Yeah.
like earlier like what I was saying is how like I have songs that are kind of just about every stage of grief and every emotion of grief, some being like the really more depressing ones, and then others being the more uplifting ones and that kind of a thing. But I think I'm probably going to start off with like multiple EPs, and have songs that kind of like have like an EP that's modeled after each stage of grief, and then eventually that will wind up kind of falling into a full album with then like maybe a couple extra songs on there as well too, so it feels like a
Awesome.
cohesive piece of work. But yeah, you'll probably see more EPs in 2025 than you will albums, but
Which is
you know,
fine.
at least by 2026 you'll have the full length. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of music coming in 2025. So
All right,
I
brother.
can't
Well,
wait. I'm
yeah,
so
thank you so much.
excited.
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you,
And
awesome.
and with that said, everybody, thank you for listening, and always remember when words fail.
Music speaks.
Music speaks.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.